Hello there, my name is Thomas Dolby, and you're listening to Icon Fetch.
Welcome to Icon Fetch, the web's premier music interview show. Now, here's your host, Tony Peters.
Welcome to Icon Fetch. I am Tony Peters. Now, our guest this time, Carlos Calvo. Well, you could call him a guitar teacher for the stars. He's counted Adam Levine and actors David Duchovny and Rob Morrow as students. Now, he's also worked as a guitar coach, teaching actors how to portray musicians on the big screen. Now, Calvo has just put together his second solo album called Further Down the Line.
And I will be with you further down the line.
It's a diverse blend of acoustic alternative folk with some guitar virtuosity thrown in as well. So to talk about it, we welcome to the show Carlos Calvo. Carlos, good to talk to you, man. How are you?
Hey, Tony, I'm great. Thanks. Thanks for having me today. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Now, okay, if I'm looking at this is your second solo album, but it's 15 years between records here, if I'm correct. So, did it take, I don't imagine it took you were working on this for a solid 15 years, right?
Yeah, I had to sit and think about it for a little while, yeah.
Right.
Hey, I was busy, man.
Right.
Busy those 15 years. No, you just, as a songwriter, you're always writing, which I was, but you're never entirely sure that you're writing for a cohesive collection of songs, which back in our day we used to call albums.
Yes, yeah, right.
But that sort of did happen. Once I had this group of songs, I realized that there was sort of a cohesive thread running through them, and I thought, man, why don't I put something else out in the form of an album? Just to do it. I felt inspired to do it, so there it is.
Right. Now, looking at your website, I see a huge list of influences, everybody from, Al Di Meola to the Beatles to Arcade Fire to Bach and all this. So, when you're songwriting, it with all those influences, it sounds like it could come out as, all over the map kind of thing. Do you ever have to kind of reel yourself in and go, okay, well, if we're putting an album together, it needs to all kind of be from this kind of same sound or something like that?
Wow, that's a great question. Lucky for me, I have a lot of songwriting outlets besides the writing I do just for myself. I have some partnerships, some other people that I write with, so I get to really explore a bunch of genres. And the ones that sort of fit what I consider myself to be as an artist, I kind of keep for myself. But I don't usually limit myself to genre or style because of all those influences. You're right. Things could be quite varied in the writing process when you have those kind of influences. But I could kind of keep it in a sort of, let's say, the giant umbrella of pop in modern music terms.
Midnight is all I'm waiting for. You can't put too much trust in what you're seeing.
Now, was this the kind of project that you basically started and completed relatively recently, or was it, I know you're very busy with all these other things going on. Was this something like over several years that you would record here and there in between projects, or is this something that happened kind of quickly?
There were a couple of songs that I had started a little while ago, but then once I realized that the ideas I was having were coming out pretty cohesive, I kind of put it into high gear and just slammed it all out in a matter of a couple of months, maybe 3 or 4 months.
Nice.
So
okay.
most of it was in the time span of 3 or 4 months with some older material, just a little bit.
Right.
No, it don't mean a thing to me.
Okay. Now, if I compare things to your last record, it seems like maybe this is a little more stripped down production-wise than what you were doing in 01. Was there like a conscious effort, or did it just kind of come out that way?
Yeah, I think my sort of aesthetic might have evolved since then. That's natural. We all do it. And I think I just like to hear simpler elements interacting in the context of my own music these days. So yeah, that's a good observation.
Okay, and the other thing, on the inside of the liner notes of the record, you said that there's no such thing as a solo project. What do you mean by that?
Well, because music is by nature a collaborative experience at one point or another. I did do a lot of recording by myself. I did a lot of writing by myself. But at some point, you need to have other musicians, a great drummer to play on your track, a cellist friend came in, someone who's going to mix it for you. And so at some point you're relying on the expertise of other people to help manifest your vision. And I'm really lucky to know some really talented, amazing people that got on board with me on this project.
Right. Now, tell me about Sam Aliano. This guy's also a teacher, just like you, right?
He is, as it happens. He's a beast. He's an Australian Italian, and apparently there are many of those.
Wow, that's an interesting mix. Okay.
Yeah. And about Sam, his story is really interesting. Apparently, his family was like Australia's Partridge Family. They were this touring musical group, and he, as an 8-year-old, took over as the drummer, and he's been a professional drummer since then. But he plays with everyone from Slash to Tony McAlpine to he's amazing.
Nice.
He's great.
Nice.
It's too late now to fight it. It's already been decided. It's your loss.
And I noticed that, with this record, you mentioned crowdfunding, that you actually, were able to put together something where fans were able to help, help shoulder the costs of putting a record like this out. It's kind of amazing, the technology that we have now, isn't it?
It really is, man. It's incredible. That was both a social and technical experiment, crowdfunding. I cannot believe how much I learned from that process, and I really respect other people that are going through it. Anytime I see one of my artist friends starting one of those, I immediately donate, because it's tough, but it's very rewarding if you could meet your goals and get it done. And in my case, I'm very, very fortunate to have been able to have a successful crowdfunding campaign. Amazing. Again, also very collaborative. Not a solo project.
Right. And you get almost instantaneous results. You can post something on the internet and immediately, okay, here's a little taste of my upcoming project, and immediately get feedback, which was just unheard of, say 20 years ago or something like that.
Absolutely. Isn't that is just incredible, isn't it? Mind-blowing.
Right. Absolutely. So you do teaching and coaching and all this, but over time, do you find that as you teach and coach, that teacher still has learning to do, and maybe you put some of that towards the new record kind of thing?
Oh man, that is an understatement, Tony. Yeah, I think the teacher is the ultimate student. I think that's what teaching is about. Everyone's still learning, but in order to convey an idea clearly to someone else, you have to know it 5 times better than you need to know it to only just to execute it for your own purposes. So you have to you're constantly learning. Music is like an ocean. There's no way to grasp all of it, and that's what's kind of great about it. So yeah, teaching has been my greatest learning experience, no doubt.
Music is like an ocean. Wow, man, that's great.
Deep, man.
It's deep, literally, right? That's cool. So why don't you tell me about a couple of the tracks? I really liked "Hanging by a String."
I'm hanging by a string, trying not to look straight down. I'm hanging on.
What can you tell me about that?
Oh, awesome. Thanks, man. I love it too. I don't know. It was one of those really little simple ideas that I was able to. I don't know if you've heard songwriters say that sometimes the songs that come together in 15, 20 minutes are sort of magical ones, always end up being the good ones. And this certainly fit into that profile.
Right.
But it's also, I loved that sort of 80s British, Australian, New Zealand pop, kind of like split ends and squeeze and crowded house. And I feel like this was a little bit of that influence coming out on this song, just melodically,
I hear it, definitely. Now that you mention it, I totally hear like Neil Finn's kind of song.
Totally.
That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so tell me about it. Kind of moody feel to it. Walk with me.
Walk with me in the world of slowly, magically. You'll be amazed at what you see.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, that is definitely a moodier piece. It was inspired by my wife and I did this pilgrimage in northern Spain where we trekked 400 miles across the country, and it's a pilgrimage that's been going on up there since about the year 700 or 800, I think.
Wow.
And yeah, it's really a cool thing to do. I think that movie The Way. There was a movie The Way starring Martin Sheen, which took place on this walk. So anyway, that was I kind of was inspired to write a song about that, and also keep the tempo is similar to how the pace of your feet would be as you're kind of walking on some long distance trek, So I kind of took it from there, and that song is inspired by that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So like as you're walking, are you writing, or is this something you sort of composed after you've gotten done with the thing?
No, definitely after.
Right.
As you're walking, you're suffering.
Right, exactly, right. Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, I'm just not in an inspirational mood right now. That's
No, it's very, very inspiring, but it's amazing how many ideas come out later.
Right. Now, you've got two versions of Bay on here. Why two versions of the song?
Now you take your turn. You're not waiting anymore. What you can't afford to miss.
Bayon, I don't know. I just I heard them both. The original version was the electric version. I love. It's a song that's very close to me thematically. It's very personal. And then I decided to break it down into acoustic guitar and kind of string quartet. And I wanted to hear it like that, and I liked both versions, so I decided to keep both. Why not?
Right, absolutely. Why not?
Because it's my record.
Right, sure. Because
like
right, you don't have anybody telling you what to do. I can do it, right? So
Isn't that awesome?
That is great. Well, hey, we live in very strange music times, but the fact that you can call your own shots, you can reach out to your fans, they can help fund your project. I mean, that is there are still a lot of positives to be had in the music business thing.
Absolutely right. You do hear a lot of the complaints of the modern musicians, but to be an independent artist in our time has a lot of great advantages too, and the creative liberties that we have, and the immediacy that we have with the people that support us as fans and listeners, is pretty awesome. It's pretty incredible.
Right, absolutely. Now, this is only one project that you're involved with. You and actor Rob Morrow have got like a duo that you guys have been doing here, and I understand that your song "Out and About" was recently featured in a TV show, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, me and Rob, he's just a great guy, and he and I have been writing together for about 3 years. And we have a little publishing company that we create content for the purpose of sort of getting it out, maybe using some of his film and TV connections to help get him placed in these productions. And we were lucky enough to have one air last week. Really exciting news.
Nice. Now, how did you and Rob get hooked up then?
Rob got my number, I think, through an amazing guy who was the first AD on a Showtime show called Californication, and I was working on that show as a guitar coach, and Rob was looking for a guitar teacher, but he was more interested in writing, composing songs, and so we started kind of working on that and realized we quickly formed a really good working relationship, and it's been that way ever since.
Nice.
He's great.
Nice.
Yeah,
now,
really.
you talk about Californication. You had worked with David Duchovny as a guitar coach. So explain to me, what you do you've basically got a guy that's an actor that is trying to portray a musician, right? Is that how that's working out?
That's usually how it works. In the case of Californication, it actually was not with David Duchovny. It was with a young actress named Madeline Martin who was portraying his daughter on the show.
Okay, right.
Her character had like a punk band, and and she was supposed to be a musician on the show, and she was not a musician in real life. So we had to kind of turn her into one. We had to coach her on the parts and how to not only, for me, my personal philosophy is the most realistic look on camera is to actually be doing it. So we really were able to teach her all the songs and to play them. And by the end of the show, she was a guitar player for real. Yeah.
Nice. That would make sense. Instead of just trying to fumble your way through it and fake it,
right.
You might as well learn how to do it. So
I hate that. Don't you hate that when you see an actor just clearly have no clue what's going on with the instrument? It just looks so fake.
Well, yeah, it bothers me because I play guitar and I'll see a guy with a guitar in his hand. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that is, but that's not a chord.
That's exactly right.
Right.
That drives me nuts.
Right. Yep, I hear you. And I'm sure we're not the only people, so that's good. We got people like you that are making it right. Then that's
trying.
Right. So now you and David Duchovny have worked. I mean, you've I get from what I understand. Have taught him some guitar, but then as a result, again, another one of these partnerships, you start out as his teacher, and now you and him are collaborating on his second record, right?
Could be, yeah. David later on, towards the end of the run of Californication, he got interested in playing guitar just on a personal level, not so much to do with the show, although we did some guitar stuff with him for the show in season 6. That was quite a lot of fun, but he just kind of got really, really into it, and he released a record which was favorably reviewed in the New York Times. It's actually really good in that sort of Dylan Petty-esque, understated vocal kind of way, but his songs are really strong, and we just decided to start try something together. So we're just finishing up a song right now, and we'll see. It
Nice.
could be a great one for his next record.
Right.
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at YouTube, and I was really pleasantly surprised at wow, that's good stuff. So
it's actually pretty good. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised too because I'm very fond of David. He's another one. He's just a great guy, but. What happens if he plays you a song and you're like, oh, I don't know.
Right. What do you say? Right.
What do you say? You don't want to hurt the guy's feelings.
Right.
But his stuff is really good. It's really strong, really well thought out lyrics, and stylistically, for those of us that were raised in, let's say, the 70s and 80s, pretty great music,
Right. Well, I have to say, okay, so we've brought up Rob and we brought up David, guys that are actors first and then become musicians.
Right.
I can think back to Don Johnson, trying to make it as a singer or whatever, and
Sure.
And there's a lot of those examples through the years where people don't really take the guy too seriously. But, I mean, in your experience, is it kind of okay, if you're creative as an actor, that kind of means you're sort of you're a creative person in general? I mean, can you make that kind of generalization? Or
That is a brilliant observation, and that is what I learned working with Rob. Creativity is creativity. It translates. And so it's very interesting to see these people, because I don't really understand acting, and that just seems so foreign to me, what they do, but how they're able to translate their creativity from one medium to another is really impressive. They're truly creative people, They say, they used to say that actors really just want to direct, but it seems like actors really just want to be musicians.
Right. right.
Johnny Depp is another example.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, Johnny Depp's got that cool project with Alice Cooper. That's good stuff, man.
Hollywood Vampire.
Right,
yeah.
right. And so that's cool. Now, if we go back a little bit, what's interesting is, most people have like the annoying, obnoxious old guy living next door that tells the kids to get off their lawn.
Right.
And you are lucky enough to have what, Al Di Meola as your next door neighbor growing up?
Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
A little tiny suburban town in New Jersey, and that's the next door neighbor. Yeah.
Wow. So, you able to get anything from that relationship? You hanging out over at his house, kind of thing, or?
Yeah, for sure. Al's a great guy. I sound like I'm repeating myself a lot, but he is. He's really, really cool. And when I was much younger than he was, but I was a studying guitar player, but I was studying kind of classical and flamenco. And my father is from Spain, and so we'd always have these. He would have these parties with all these sort of flamenco guitarists around, these legends who live and play in New York. And of course, Al always had a fascination with Spanish guitar and Spanish music, so he respected the avenue that I chose to study, but also would come and hang out and see these other guitar greats, and they would be just these epic jam sessions. My only regret is that there were no iPhone cameras back then.
Oh my gosh,
so
yeah.
have this on video. It would be
right.
Amazing video. Believe me, it'd be
right.
incredible.
Absolutely. I mean, that's to be able to capture some of that stuff would, we live in a different time now. That's for sure. You would have had that all over Facebook and everything else, right?
Everywhere, yeah. That's
so, but so how did you go from, say, studying more classical and flamenco stuff to doing sort of, I mean, I hate to say mainstream, but I guess more, melodic pop kind of stuff?
Well, my very, very first inspiration to start playing guitar was the Beatles, and so that right off the bat. But inevitably, as a young guitar player, let's say you when I hit 13, 14, you hear someone like Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, yeah.
You hear Led Zeppelin, and
right.
It's like, that's it, it's over. How do I make that sound?
Right.
How do I do that? So for me, it doesn't feel disjointed to have a passion for both things,
Right. Well, and if you know anything about Jimi Hendrix, I mean, Jimmy loved jazz, I mean, he definitely brought a lot of other elements to his playing as well. So
for sure.
So yeah, that's so then, I don't imagine that as a young kid learning how to play guitar that your number one goal in life was to be a teacher. Was there kind of some sort of a crossroads at one point where you're like, okay, the me being the musician is going to have to take a backseat to me being a teacher?
Well, no, that was a complete fluke. I was like a young student. I think I'd just gotten out of music school, and I was just looking for a part-time job, and there was this big music store on Sunset Boulevard called the Guitar Center. Now, this is when there was only one of these stores. There's probably one in your area. There's massive.
Yep.
There's this behemoth of a chain now, right?
Yep, very much so.
But at this time, there was only one store in the world, and it was this one. And so I walked in, and I got a part-time job, and after being there a while, this guy approached me. He was from Chicago, and he was moving back, and he says he gave private lessons and asked if I'd like to take over his students. And a couple of them were like celebrity students. It was all in Beverly Hills, all private school kids. So I said, sure. And just by saying yes, something that my life had changed. I started, a lot of word of mouth went around. One of those first students was Dionne Warwick's son, I think, the singer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it just sort of spread from there among these private school moms love to recommend things, when they think they have something really cool. They love to tell the other moms lucky for me.
Nice. And I mean, absolutely. So you go from doing private lessons, but then there's a whole nother step to the whole guitar coaching in the movies, right?
Yeah, it was sort of a natural step because a lot of these parents are also industry people. Los Angeles is, if you're in Washington, D.C., it's very likely you'll run into somebody who works in the political world.
Right.
Or if you're in New York, you'll definitely meet people who work in finance. It's the same here in L.A. You can't throw a rock without, hitting someone that works in the film and TV industry. So I got some early calls. Actually, a friend of a friend's dad was a director and asked me to coach a young actress for a part on an indie movie, and that was like maybe 20 years ago. So that's amazing. It's been going that way since.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So, yeah, you can't complain about that for sure. So
no complaints.
Right.
It's been good. Very, very lucky. It's definitely equal parts, I think, ability and hard work, but, man, luck certainly does play a part.
Sure. So now, with as busy as you are, you got some upcoming gigs that you're doing to kind of promote the new record, or?
Yeah, I just did a really nice gig this past weekend here in L.A., and we'll see if the second half of 2016 we'll do a little more traveling. Right now I'm just playing pretty locally and regionally from LA to San Diego. But definitely would look to expand that if possible.
Nice. Now, do you have a website where people can find out more information?
Yes, please have a visit, carloscalvo.com.
Okay.
It's that simple. You could hear music. You could look at photo galleries. You could see videos. It's all linked up, and all the social media outlets are linked to it. So it's
nice.
Really, really great.
Fantastic. All right. Well, good stuff. Well, the good new CD from Carlos Calvo is called Further Down the Line, and I wish you luck on it, man.
Tony, thanks so much. What a pleasure it's been chatting with you.
It's Carlos Calvo there, and I love doing the interviews of people that are behind the scenes. Some of those are some of the more interesting ones for sure. And look, Carlos is a great musician, writes some great songs on his own too. So it's fantastic. If you missed any part of this show, you can hear it again by going to our website. It's iconfetch.com. Our shows are also available for free download at the iTunes Store. Until next time, I'm Tony Peters. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Icon Fetch with Tony Peters. Want more great interviews? Head over to iconfetch.com. There, you'll find every interview we've ever done, plus CD reviews, This Day in Music, and a random album of the day. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Who is Tony going to interview next? It could be you. Send what you've got to Tony Peters. Icon Fetch, P.O. Box 292134, Dayton, Ohio 45429. Or email Tony at host@iconfetch.com. Until next time, this is Joe Kelly. Have a great day.